Welcome back to Rapture Tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and get ready for another story you won't forget. Let's dive back to the story. News of Nia Harper's death spread through Aurelian Heights Academy like a shockwave that refused to settle. At first, it came as whispers, students murmuring in corridors, teachers exchanging tense glances, dormitories unusually silent. Many struggled to reconcile the image of the quiet scholarship girl with the tragedy unfolding. The administration attempted to maintain order, insisting on routine, but the atmosphere had changed irreversibly. An emergency assembly was held, vague in detail yet heavy with implication. Words like loss, investigation, and disciplinary review echoed through the hall, but no one dared to speak Nia's name aloud. It was easier to mourn an idea than confront a reality shaped by neglect, privilege, and silence. Lou Maria sat through it all in a numb haze, replaying every warning she had ever given, every conversation she wished she had pushed harder. Guilt pressed on her chest like a physical weight. She remembered the nights she had waited for Nia to return, the excuses she had accepted, the moments she had chosen peace over confrontation. When confirmation finally came, clinical, cold, undeniable, Luma broke. She cried not only for Nia's death, but for the version of her friend that had once dreamed of changing her family's future. That girl had died long before the operating table, and Luma understood with devastating clarity that good intentions alone could not save someone determined to self-destruct. At the hospital, Nia's mother collapsed when the doctor finished speaking. There were no words strong enough to absorb the finality of it all. She had sent her daughter away with prayers and hope, believing distance from poverty would bring safety, not danger. As she held Nia's lifeless hand, she searched desperately for signs she had missed, calls unanswered, changes ignored, instincts silenced by trust. Her grief was raw, unfiltered, and merciless. It was the grief of a parent who had believed in education as salvation, only to discover that temptation had been waiting where she thought protection lived. The investigation that followed unraveled truths the school could no longer contain. Security footage, witness statements, and digital records painted a picture of repeated escapes, unchecked privilege, and administrative blindness. Czar Blackwood's family lawyers moved swiftly, issuing statements and threatening action. Brielle Vaughn transferred schools within days. Sapphira Lux broke down under questioning, her composure cracking as the weight of what she had helped enable crushed her bravado. Their laughter, once fearless, now sounded hollow in memory. The illusion of untouchability dissolved under scrutiny, revealing fear beneath the glamour. Victor Hale was eventually traced. When confronted, he denied responsibility, clinging to technicalities and cowardice. But truth does not need permission to destroy reputations. His marriage crumbled. His children learned their father's name through scandal. He lost not only his job but his dignity, exposed as a man who preyed on vulnerability and fled consequences. Yet even his punishment felt insufficient, because no outcome could reverse the damage he had helped cause. Accountability came too late to matter where it mattered most. Aurelian Heights Academy issued reforms, new policies, stricter supervision, and mental health initiatives, all framed as lessons learned. But to many, it felt like performative regret. A plaque was placed quietly in the library, her name etched into polished wood, described as a promising student gone too soon. Some students paused before it. Others walked past. Life moved forward, indifferent to symbolism. Institutions always survive. Individuals do not. Luma carried Nia's memory with her into every exam, every achievement, every quiet moment. She graduated with honors, but success tasted bittersweet. She spoke at counseling sessions, warning younger students with honesty rather than fear. She told them that belonging should never cost your future, that shortcuts are often traps disguised as gifts. Her voice shook when she spoke, but she never stopped. Silence, she had learned, was the most dangerous accomplice of all. Nia Harper was buried on a cloudy afternoon, attended by family, a few teachers, and one friend who stood trembling beside the grave. There were no grand speeches, no dramatic justice, no reversal of fate, just soil, tears, and unanswered questions. Her life ended as a cautionary echo of how easily dreams can be traded for illusions, how peer pressure can feel like love, and how consequences do not always wait for understanding. And long after the music faded, the parties ended, and the lies were buried, one truth remained painfully clear. Not every lesson waits for graduation to be learned, and not every mistake allows a second chance. Nia Harper arrived at Aurelian Heights Academy on a gray morning that smelled faintly of rain and polished marble. The school rose like a fortress of privilege, its tall buildings gleaming with wealth she had only ever seen from the outside. Students stepped out of sleek cars, laughing loudly, dragging designer luggage behind them, while Nia stood quietly with a modest box and a small suitcase that held her entire life. Her scholarship letter felt heavier than gold in her pocket, not because of its weight, but because of what it meant. Back home, her mother had hugged her for a long time, whispering prayers into her hair, reminding her that this opportunity was fragile and sacred. Nia promised herself that she would not waste it. She would study harder than everyone else, ignore distractions, and rise above her background no matter how lonely the path became. In her first weeks, Nia found comfort in Luma Reyes, another scholarship student whose calm intelligence and quiet strength mirrored her own. Luma believed deeply in rules and structure, and she treated education like a contract with the future. They studied together late into the night, sharing instant noodles and dreams whispered under dormitory blankets. While others skipped prep classes or mock teachers, Nia and Luma sat at the front, absorbing every lesson like thirsty soil. Teachers noticed Nia's sharp mind and disciplined nature, often praising her essays and problem-solving skills. For a while, everything felt aligned. Nia believed that as long as she stayed focused, nothing could pull her off course. That belief began to crack the day she crossed paths with Zara Blackwood, Brielle Vaughn, and Saphira Lux. They were impossible to miss, always perfectly dressed, always laughing too loudly, always surrounded by attention. They moved through the school as if rules bent around them, not the other way around. Rumors followed them like perfume. Secret parties, midnight outings, older boyfriends, money that seemed endless. Nia watched them from a distance at first, telling herself she was different, that she didn't need that kind of life. But curiosity is a quiet poison. It doesn't attack. It waits. And slowly, Nia began to wonder what it would feel like to be admired instead of invisible. The first invitation came disguised as kindness. Zara complimented Nia's intelligence during a group assignment. Brielle admired her natural beauty, and Saphira laughed warmly, telling her she deserved more than textbooks and silence. They spoke of freedom, of living fully while young, of experiences that couldn't be found in classrooms. Nia resisted at first, repeating her mother's warnings in her mind, hearing Luma's voice urging caution. But when Zara casually mentioned a weekend outing, just one night, nothing serious, something inside Nia shifted. She wanted to belong. She wanted to feel chosen. And against her better judgment, she agreed. Sneaking out of Aurelian Heights for the first time felt like stepping into another world. Neon lights replaced fluorescent dorm bulbs, music thundered through her chest, and strangers treated her like someone important. Zara introduced her to Victor Hale, a charming older man with confident eyes and an easy smile. He spoke softly, listened intently, and made Nia feel seen in ways she never had before. When he bought her a drink, then another, then laughed at her jokes as if they were priceless, Nia felt herself floating. That night ended with promises, phone numbers exchanged, and a thrill that lingered long after she returned to her dorm before dawn. From that point on, the shift was gradual but relentless. Nia began missing morning classes, telling herself she would catch up later. Victor started sending her money, buying her clothes, gifting her a phone she could never have afforded. Each gift tightened the invisible chain around her choices. Zara, Brielle, and Saphira encouraged her, praising her transformation, laughing at her former seriousness. Luma noticed a change immediately. The tired eyes, the sudden excuses, the defensive tone whenever concern was raised. She warned Nia gently at first, then firmly, reminding her of everything she stood to lose. But Nia no longer wanted to hear it. Responsibility felt dull compared to excitement, and warnings felt like jealousy. By the time Nia realized her grades were slipping, it felt too late to turn back without admitting failure. Nights blurred together, clubs, alcohol, laughter that fell hollow the next morning. Victor's attention grew inconsistent, affectionate one moment, distant the next. When Nia discovered she was pregnant for the first time, panic clawed at her throat. Zara brushed it off, handing her pills and assuring her it was common, easy, forgettable. It worked. The relief was immediate, dangerous, addictive. Each consequence seemed solvable, each mistake reversible. But mistakes accumulate interest. Months later, when the sickness returned and the test confirmed her fears again, the pills no longer worked. Her body rebelled, her strength faded, and fear replaced denial. When she told Victor, expecting reassurance, she discovered the truth in fragments. He was not wealthy, not powerful, not free. He was a driver for a rich family, married, with children who depended on him. His voice turned cold, his promises evaporated, and he disappeared from her life as if she had never existed. Zara distanced herself. Brielle stopped answering messages. Safira avoided eye contact. Nia stood alone in the wreckage of choices she once defended, terrified to face her mother, terrified of expulsion, terrified of what was growing inside her. Desperation stripped her pride away. She begged Safira for help, clinging to the last thread of friendship she thought she had. Against reason and safety, they sought someone who promised discretion instead of care. The pain that followed was unbearable, the bleeding unstoppable. By the time Nia collapsed back at school, her body had already begun to surrender. Sirens wailed. Doctors rushed. Her mother cried miles away without knowing why her heart hurt so badly. And in a sterile operating room, the future Nia once dreamed to slip quietly out of reach. That's all for today. Like, subscribe, and see you in the next episode. Stay tuned.